Hello, hello, and welcome to episode 123 on the Everyday Joy podcast. I'm your host, Joy Ravella. Want to do a massive shout out to Jeff, who left a 5-star written review. Jeff said, "Now I have the Everyday Joy podcast as part of my daily routine as I go to work every weekday. Thanks for the insightful reflections. It's a great way to start the day." Oh, Jeff, thank you so much for sharing that 5-star review. I just love capturing these little images in my mind of different individuals listening in different environments, and I'm so glad that it's a part of your everyday. And thanks to Jeff and his 5-star written review, it essentially allows for more people to discover this podcast and have it as a part of their lives as well. So thank you so much. And if you haven't already, would love for you to do the same. Before we get into today's scripture, I want to encourage you to take an opportunity that is right before you. Thanks to CBM Australia, with $33, you can change someone's every day by literally giving them the gift of sight, the miracle of sight, through a $33 donation that provides that sight-saving surgery for someone in a developing world. So if you want to wrap up your week doing something incredible for someone else, the link to that is below. Let's get now into today's Bible verse on the Everyday Joy podcast.
James 1 verse 4 from the CEV. "You must learn to endure everything so that you will be completely mature and not lacking in anything."
I have got Sharon wrapping up the week here with me, and today I guess the conversation is going to be about endurance. And I don't know about you, but endurance isn't something that comes naturally to me. I'm a short burst, high energy kind of person.
Me too. I'm a sprinter, not a jogger.
No, I don't know how people do marathons, but sprints I was really good in. It was surprising. I was not the sportiest person. But if someone told me you just need to give it 100% for the next 20 meters, I could do it. And I could outdo everyone. And I think that translates a lot to what I do every day. I mean, when you're on air, it's a 2,000% every time you're live. And then when you're off air, I literally hibernate. If you see me behind the scenes, I turn off, I shut down, and then I boot back up again. And that's how I operate. So endurance for me personally, and this verse is really hard because I'm not good at it. I never have been. And this is tough for me. And whenever I've been in situations where I've had to wait or had to do something the long way, I often don't become a very nice person because it's something I struggle with. So my first impressions of that verse. Sharon, what about you? What are your first impressions?
I'm like you, Joy. I don't know how to pace myself. Or put it this way, I'm still learning to pace myself in my 50s. So in my nature, I'm impulsive. I want to get it all. I want to get it now. And what this verse teaches me about God is that, hang on a minute, slow down. This world is harsh. It's not fair. In this life, you will have trouble, Jesus tells us. And what we need to do is trust God with it and through it, just day by day. I think that builds maturity and endurance. But I'll get back to you on that one.
Yeah, it's a difficult verse for some of us, but I think it's challenging for all of us, because if you put any human being through anything for a long period of time, you have to build up endurance or you will sink into that pit of depression and defeat. Yeah. And so you get to this point where it's pick a path. And that can be a really challenging place to be in if there is something that you battle with on a daily basis. And we're going to get into a little bit of that later with the story you have to share. But what does this verse tell you about who God is or what he values?
Yeah, I think God values being with us and us looking to him and trusting him. He values that relationship with us, and he doesn't promise to fix up our life. And sometimes he does, but mostly he doesn't. Most of us do struggle with something, one thing or another. What God values and what God is like is the relationship that we forge with him through those tough times.
Yeah, and tough times can do that. It sounds a little hollow and empty when you are in the middle of it, but it always proves to be the case. When you look back, you realize that you're stronger. I remember reading a quote. So actually printed on the wall of a gym I used to go to, and it said, it was so inspiring actually, it was deeply profound and spiritual while I was on the treadmill huffing and puffing away, but it said, the situation doesn't always get easier, but you get stronger.
Oh, wow. I should write that on my fridge.
It's pretty good, hey? They were onto something there.
Yeah, I say my daughter has a saying, good times come and go, but they come.
Yeah.
And that also helps us when we go through our tough times.
And so you've asked her permission, and today you're going to share a story about your daughter and some of the daily endurance struggles that she faces. And for a lot of you listening, I understand that you may yourself not relate to the story, but guarantee that there is someone in your life who is battling something on a daily basis that is invisible, and that's the focus of today's story. So Sharon, I'll just let you take the floor here. Tell me about your daughter.
Yeah, thank you. My daughter Rebecca is now 23 years old, and for the last 3 years she's been battling with chronic fatigue syndrome. We didn't know what it was at first, but she went from having a full life. She had lots of friends, she went to university full time, she had hobbies, she used to love bushwalking, to just over a few months lying in bed for 24 hours or 22 hours of every day, just total lack of energy. And it destroyed her life. She couldn't study anymore. She could only see her friends very, very rarely. She was not a well child. And eventually we did come to a diagnosis of chronic fatigue. Of course, at first we had to rule out everything else, including depression, which I'm very grateful and glad to say she does not suffer from. But she has a really, really, really reduced life at the moment. I read somewhere that chronic fatigue is life-changing and debilitating. And boy, my daughter lives that reality every day. Every day, it's debilitating. My daughter has, as of today, no hopes of work, relationships, marriage, children. She suffers the loss. She suffers that loss of opportunity every day. But my daughter is an amazing human being. She has made a decision a while ago that she's going to do the best she can with what she's got. She hasn't got much. She can be awake and alive, if you like, for about 3 hours of every day. But she's going to overcome with that, is her attitude. And it's a decision. It's a decision she makes every day to not sink into a pit of self-pity, of, woe is me, I can't do a thing, of what's going to happen when my parents die. My daughter is very mature for 23, much more mature than my boys. She's learned to depend on God as a decision, an act of the will, every hour of every day. She's an amazing young human being. My daughter knows what it's like to be weak. My daughter has empathy for those on the outer. My daughter has a heart for people who are vulnerable. And she's mature beyond her years because she depends on God fully. It's a great lesson for me as her mum. And I treasure every moment with her. And I know she treasures every moment that she's alive and able to do something.
Yeah. I've had the privilege of meeting her, and there are some times when I can see she's fighting to stay awake, to stay, there and to be present. But she's fighting all the time. She's fighting to listen. And she'll hear me go on and on about all my life woes and all the different things going on. And I have never once ever seen a flicker of resentment or of jealousy. Like, she's so incredibly wise, and there's just so much that I have learnt from just having the privilege of being around her and witnessing how she lives life. And I think, for you listening right now, I'm not sure what you are facing, and I'm not sure what you are going through, but no matter what it is, we all have a choice around how we choose to process what we have.
Yes, we do. I've seen Rebecca make that choice time and time again. It is a choice. And for some of you who might be walking through a chronic condition, or worse in a way, watching your children go through such a tough, relentless, chronic, debilitating condition, be it depression or anxiety or a physical condition like my daughter, know that you can be present with them and for them, and you can keep encouraging them, and know that it works, it matters to them. Know that your relationship with them, when you speak those words of wisdom and trust in God to them and with them, and when they choose also to trust God, that's half the battle won. And there is a lot of hope in just walking with God and allowing God to walk in that situation with you, not knowing what the future will bring, but just putting your hand in His every morning and saying, today we're doing this together.
As we wrap up today's episode, the application today is twofold but very simple. To those of you who are on that journey of endurance, I hope that today's conversation helped you feel less alone in all of it. I hope it helped you find that hope to continue moving forward and to stay the course. It's tough, I know, and my heart goes out to you. Now, to those of you who are walking the journey of supporting someone who is going through a tough battle like Sharon, I love what she said at the end, and I want to reiterate it. Keep encouraging them. Keep turning up for them. Keep giving, even though you feel like it's not really landing. Just don't stop, because you may be the only voice of comfort and joy in their world right now. And they may not say it, but I'm sure that they're so grateful that you are still rooting for them. And I pray for God's strength over you as well, as you support yourself and your own world and support them too. It's not an easy road. How good, though, that we have a God who promises to stand with us and who promises to be there with us through it all. That we have a God who understands pain, who understands endurance, who understands suffering, and who doesn't sympathize with us but empathizes with us. And this is a God that you can reach out to right now, whatever you're facing. James 1:4, you must learn to endure everything so that you will be completely mature and not lacking in anything. Well, that wraps up this week's episodes on the Everyday Joy podcast. Gig is back next week. I'm so excited, and I look forward to catching up with you then.